Okay, we've got a fun one for you guys today. We're going to be doing a reaction to the God of War creator, good old David Jaffe, and his thoughts on God of War Laufey, which is, of course, the newest God of War series game that's going to be coming out from Sony Santa Monica Studios. This is the one that everybody's been rumoring about, of course, where they're going to be making a game based on Faye. Well, it happens to be real, so those rumors were correct, of course. Sometimes the rumors are correct and sometimes they're not, and this one had a lot of buzz. So this one kind of definitely was more in the correct camp people were thinking, because there was a lot of chatter about it. And overall, the reactions have been pretty solid from what I've seen. I mean, there have been a couple of the usual, like, God Awoke, of course. Good old Quasar had to make the God Awoke video. But, like most of the people have been reacting pretty positively for very good reason, because the game actually looks really good. That's pretty much what it boils down to. Now, there is going to be some disappointment about certain things, like you're not playing as Kratos in this one. Of course, people love playing as Kratos because he's a really cool character, very visceral combat and all that good stuff, But what they showed of this game, it's, if you're just a fan of the gameplay itself, you don't really care all that much about the, the character. You're more about the gameplay. I think you're going to dig the game, honestly, based on what I've seen. I actually watched a bit of Dreamcast Guy's video, and, I'm not a fan of Dreamcast Guy at all, if you know me, but he actually did a pretty good video. I haven't watched a video of his in a long time. He sounded different. I guess he had dental work or something, so maybe that's why he sounds different, I guess. I don't know. But anyways, we're going to get into the meat and the bones here, which is, of course, Jaffe's video. I was going to try to pull this up on YouTube, but the stream apparently was blocked in my country, so I had to pull it up on Twitter here. Thanks to good old Grums linking this, because this wasn't even on Jaffe's thing, so I guess he got the clip off of there. I don't know. But let's go ahead and take a look and see what our good old God of War creator has to say here. I'm going to zoom in just a tiny bit. So here we go. Let's see what you got.
The fuck was that?
The fuck was that?
Laufey? What the fuck is Laufey?
They did say Laufey. They did say Laufey, but carry on.
That looks like shit. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Okay, so bear in mind, if you've been following Jaffe at all, he's not been a fan of the God of War games. Certainly not the ones that have came out from 2018 on, although he warmed up to 2018, even though he trashed it for a very long time. It's actually more recently that he warmed up to that game. But he trashes the other ones. He trashes Ragnarok, of course. The only other one I could think of that for sure came out was Sons of Sparta. He trashed on that one, of course. That was the little indie game made by Mega Cat Studios. That's like a side-scrolling game that is Kratos before Kratos, essentially. Yeah, he's not been a fan of the series, so, very biased, of course, against it. Now, I don't know why that is specifically. I just have a feeling like he had a specific vision for Kratos. He just wanted him to be like a badass that goes around murdering gods and shit like that, and he became something more than that over time. And that's not what he had hoped for, I guess, but...
It reminds me of that game Forspoken a little bit.
Forspoken? Forspoken? This reminds you of Forspoken. You know what? Let's take a little bit of a look at Forspoken. Here's the PlayStation Showcase trailer for Forspoken. Let's take a look at that. Let's just see if we get any Forspoken vibes here. Okay. So we got a good old Forspoken here from Square Enix.
But I'm a pretty big deal.
Okay. I'm not seeing it so far. Other than female playable character, I am not seeing it so far. Okay. First of all, we got modern setting.
Clean air.
Got modern setting, of course. Oh, okay. Suddenly, oh, okay. Well, there is one connection there, besides female playable character getting transported to a different world, I suppose. Okay. Still not really seeing it. Dropping F-bombs and things like that. Not something that, would be kosher for the God of War games. Well, actually, I guess I would be because they're immature games. But, like Forspoken, it's on a ridiculous level. She's like dropping them throughout the whole game. Okay. Graphically looks nothing like the God of War games. I will have to say, I wasn't ever particularly interested in Forspoken, but the graphics did at least look...
Show yourself.
Show myself. I've shown.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Right here, at the end of your arm.
Oh, yeah, you got the talking arm, of course. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
because that happens in God of War Laufey. That happens, of course, in God of War Laufey. Remember that?
To a cup.
Oh, we got the magic.
Just do that.
We got the magic.
I just moved it.
We got the magic. Holy shit. Maybe Jaffe's onto something. But he's not.
I think that looks so uninspired, and it looks so dull. And you guys have to remember that is the opening of the game, probably, because it says X for new game.
Really? That was your indication? That it was the beginning of the game? I mean, you have clearly played the other ones. That's how they opened up. They opened up in a seamless transition. You press the new game button, and then it seamlessly goes right into the game. That's how they've done it. So, kudos, Detective Jaffe on the case here.
It's possible there's a prelude, but that seems clearly towards the opening. It's dead. That game is not going to do well for what they expect it to do.
Well, I don't know what they expect it to do, but obviously the God of War franchise is one of Sony's biggest. They always sell millions of copies for any given title. Maybe not that Sons of Sparta, but that was like a low budget indie game. So, even if they only sold a couple 100,000 copies, that game definitely made its money back and then some, because that was Mega Cat Studios, very small team. Could not have been like a super expensive to produce game. Maybe took a couple of years tops for them to make that. So, anyways, let's move on.
Here's my point. If you got rid of God of War, look at what the internet was asking for. A lot of people were saying, oh, well, maybe she gets to go into other pantheons. Okay, so do we get to see Chinese mythology, Egyptian, whatever?
Well, we clearly do, because that is demonstrated in the trailer. They had featured two deities. One, of course, was Sekhmet. That's Egyptian mythology. And the other one is Begzi. That was the yokai-looking dude or whatever. That one, I want to say it's Tibetan or something like that. It said Mongolian language or, Mongolian on the translation. So maybe it's Mongolian. I'm not really familiar with the differences in that, but that's obviously Eastern Asian culture. You could tell by the designs. That's probably the whole point of this. It seems like it's going to be like a metaverse of these different mythologies and whatnot.
Right? This just feels like Corey or somebody wanted to write a fantasy story. And I'm not saying, it's not going to be rooted and grounded in some actual mythology of something. Maybe it already is, and I'm just not aware of it. But you've lost the gore and the violence that made...
Lost the gore and the violence? Did you watch the same game trailer that I did, David? Did you? I mean, there was plenty of gore and violence throughout that trailer. I mean, that is one of the things that God of War titles are known for. But I guess not. I guess I just imagined what I saw in that trailer. I imagined all the brutality in that trailer. But whatever, carry on.
The first game, you've lost the character. You already lost him after 2018 because he changed so much he wasn't Kratos anymore.
because he grew, he changed, he has developed. You know, there's this little thing called character development, you know, where things evolve, they change, the characters adapt, they learn, you know, they, you know, that's what that's all about. You know, obviously Kratos, he had his time in the original God of War trilogy, and now he's moved on from that. He had a kid with a goddess in the Norse area. You know, he obviously left the, you know, Greek area. So, you know, he obviously, you know, a lot of time has passed between the events of those games. So it would be really strange if he didn't change.
Now you've lost the identifiable mythology of it. And you've also lost you've lost me with the cube.
I'll give you that with that gelatinous cube. I thought that was kind of weird. I will give you that. I guess they didn't want to make a totally serious approach to this one, but yeah.
It's in the little Disney character at the beginning. It just seems
Talking about the little monster at the beginning.
It seems like just a fantasy. Like you if they would have taken God of War off the title and you didn't know the God of War story and there wasn't Kratos, it was just a story about this goddess who dies, you would not be talking about this game.
I don't know. Based on the reactions that people had online, like I said earlier, seemed to be pretty positive. People are really enjoying the gameplay. You know, I even watched a little bit of this Asmongold clip here. And of course he trashed on the game overall, but there was even like parts where he was like, oh, that looks pretty cool, you know, during watching that, you know. Obviously he had to shift it back. He had to pull it back for his fan base, obviously. You know, that's how it goes. You know, when you cultivate a specific fan base, you have to like basically stick with it. Because otherwise you lose people, I suppose. You know, that's part of the game, I suppose. But yeah.
In my opinion, really fucking goofy, man. Really fucking goofy that it's like that nobody pulled somebody aside and said, this is not God of War. I don't know what the fuck this is. This is like some fantasy novel that I didn't like it at all. And
Clearly.
I'll probably play it for the stream because I'm sure there'll be interest. But if it wasn't for...
Well, probably because you put God of War Creator Reacts to, like in the title and thumbnail of all kinds of different stuff that has nothing to do with God of War. You just do it for the algorithm because people were like, I wonder what the God of War creator thinks about this. And then poof, your channel pops up, obviously, because one, you were one of the original creators of the first God of War game, the very first one, mind you. And, you know, obviously you have the pedigree in the industry and all that good stuff. You know, obviously there's going to be people in the comments being like, how dare you attack David Jaffe? You know, he's, you know, much higher class than you and all this other crap, you know, and like you're doing the armchair developer shit, you know, what have you, right? You know, yeah, I see you people, you know, whether you comment or not. Thank you very much for checking it out anyways, but you know, he's going to engage with it, obviously. And he's going to at least play that he's miserable about it because he kind of has to. He's built that brand at this point.
For that, I have no interest in playing that game. I think it looks dull. It looks repetitive. It looks been there, done that. The cover is terrible.
I'll give him that too. The cover art was a little eh. It was a little eh. Let's see if we can look at that again here. Okay, we'll just pull up the Sony. Where is the Sony one? It was a no. Why is it not even coming up now? Oh shoot! Did Sony lose its top billing for the yeah, oh here it is. Why I had to scroll down so much just to find it? Yeah, I'll show you. It's at the very end.
That awaits, Faye.
All right.
Until then, thanks again for watching. Bye.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, there's the cover art right there. It does look a little eh. It does look a little eh. Let's click on that there. But I mean, that's such a minor complaint, to be honest. It's really not all that relevant.
I don't think that's going to be the final cover. It looks like Forspoken. It's got that flavor to it. It feels very uninspired.
Yeah. What a wild take, though. We have Forspoken clones now. God of War has went on the Forspoken train. Good old Asimov was like, who wants to play as a middle-aged woman? Because she's obviously not a goddess with magic powers that's, is like zapping people and slashing them with swords and shit like that. It's not like she's playing as you're playing as some typical like middle-aged, housewife that's going through menopause, like how ridiculous these people's claims are, these takes. But that's why I like to cover them, because it's an endless trove of treasure. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to check out the video that's right above my head there. I think you're going to like that one, of course. And if not, the algorithm's going to send something fire to you in the other corner. Definitely be appreciated if you take a look at that. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe down there. Thank you very much for watching, and that's going to be the last line.